Hello and thanks for joining me. Today I'm out on a photo challenge that's been set for me by one of my viewers. Now the challenge is to shoot a tree with a number of images. It has to be the entire tree, some detail of the foliage, branches, etc., and also a close-up detail of bark, that sort of thing. However, I'm only allowed to use one focal length. Now I haven't decided what focal length I'm going to choose yet, but I have decided on a tree. This one. I'm at a place on Anglesey called Newborough Warren. It's not too far from the beach where you walk down to get to Isalnd. It's a vast expanse of ancient sand dunes that are now all grassed over with marram grass. The reason I've picked this location is because there are very few trees, and so it gives me some sort of opportunity to isolate it a little. Now we're getting on towards sunset. I've got about half an hour to go, so I need to make the most of this really nice side light. So for this first shot, I'm going for the full tree shot. That's one of the shots that I've been challenged to achieve. The light is absolutely beautiful. You wouldn't credit it that it's still only February, albeit almost the end of February, but it's an absolutely beautiful evening. So I'm really enjoying being out for this particular challenge. But I've got the sun really low, probably only about 30 minutes to go before it hits the horizon, which is just perfect. Unfortunately, the lie of the land and all the dunes don't allow me to completely isolate the tree from the trunk upwards, so I'm kind of stuck with what I've got. But what I have got is some really nice side light on the bark at the bottom of the tree, so at least I've got some consolation. Very simple shot. I'm going to shoot this at f5.6, shutter speed completely irrelevant. There's absolutely no movement anyway, makes no difference at all. But the all-important focal length. I've elected to shoot at 20 millimeters. So on a full frame equivalent, that's 40 millimeters. Just shy of the nifty 50 length, but the reason I've gone for that is because I wanted this particular shot. This whole area is grazed by ponies and cattle, and they form these little footpaths as they trundle along through the dunes. And just here there's a footpath that leads up past the tree, and because the sun is so low, it's just catching some shadows in it. So it gives me a bit of foreground interest and a lead in line. If I was any further back, I'd have a problem making anything of that. If I went for a wider length and stood closer to the tree so it fills the frame, I'd lose that effect. So my focal length has kind of been chosen for me by the composition. Now that might make it slightly more complicated when I do some close-ups in a moment, but we'll see how we get on with those. I also have it in mind towards sunset to go around the far side of the tree and shoot back towards the sun as it reddens up and gets right down onto the horizon. Now I'm going to take this series of shots handheld, mostly because I don't have a lot of time, because the light is dropping quite quickly, so I need to get on with it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make the most of the in-body stabilization paired with the stabilization on this lens. So I'm going to shoot at f5.6 because that will give me optimum sharpness. And that's going to mean I'm going to be dealing with shutter speeds at ISO 200 of round about a 50th to a 60th of a second, something like that. But of course the light's dropping fast, so hopefully that will give me what I need. But it should mean I can get round, get plenty of shots, and that'll give me something to work with later on. And normally with my landscape photography, I'd be using manual focus, but in this instance, I'm going to use single autofocus. I'm not tall enough for this first composition I'm interested in. This branch here, I've got it just coming along the top of the mountains, and there's some really nice sidelight on the dunes in the background, but it allows me to isolate the branch, but I don't want that branch at the top, so unfortunately I can't quite get up high enough. But I can do something in post, I'm sure, because I really quite like the composition. I tell you what though, force of habit, because I'm not using a prime lens, I'm there framing up a composition and I'm just naturally zooming in and out. So I've got to remember they must all be 20mm now I've settled on that focal length. Just got to get a shot of this pony. Nothing to do with the challenge, but he's backlit and he looks fabulous. This is probably the weirdest vlog I've ever made. I've just set the camera running and mucked about in front of it. It's quite easy though, I might do it more often. Okay, so I've got myself all set up for my final composition with about 10 minutes to go before sunset. Starting to get quite a nice orange glow. It's not going to be a spectacular sunset because there isn't a cloud in the sky. So I'm dependent on that nice ambient orange light you get right on the horizon. I'm waiting for the sun to come down so it's just below the bottom branch of the tree. I need to get further back. I need the tree smaller. Here we go. You'd have thought I'd settled on my composition earlier than this, wouldn't you? Okay, take two. That's better. That's much better. Well, that horse is just grazing in exactly the right spot. I tell you what, it couldn't be better if I'd booked it. Hello, excuse me, I need a horse for a photographic composition. I need it exactly there for a good 15 minutes with hardly moving at all while the sun goes down. Is that all right? Can you fix that up for me? Thank you very much. I'm still at f22, 1.3 seconds, and the horse is actually still enough to work with that. Yeah, it's kind of all over now. The sun looks amazing. In fact, I'm going to zoom in on it. Well, I've got to say, that turned out quite a bit more challenging than I thought it would be. For a lot of it, I was considerably out of my comfort zone. The close-ups of the tree are just something that I never normally shoot. In fact, I don't often shoot handheld apart from when I'm out hiking. And I see some interesting light on the far side of a mountain valley. Lying on my back under a tree, pointing it up at a pine cone. Not something you'll find me doing very often, but quite enjoyable. So thank you ever so much to my challenger. I really appreciate you doing that. If anyone else has got a challenge for me, feel free. I'll consider anything. Doesn't mean I'll do it. I said I consider it. So I think I'll leave it there for this one. Thank you ever so much for watching. And if you haven't done it yet, why not subscribe now and join me next time. Cheers.